Good morning, everyone. It's John and from Money Jar Concept. Just thought I'll say a quick shout out to everyone who's in Victoria, who are staying at home, trying to do their best to wait till stage four ends. I've got today Lucy Padula, a family lawyer from Anderson Family Lawyers, and someone I've been working fairly closely with for the last year and a half. Lucy, you want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, as John said, I'm Lucy from Anderson Family Lawyers. So I practice exclusively in family law. What that basically means is I assist people who have separated or are considering separating, working towards resolving their matters, whether they be care arrangements for children or resolving financial matters, so how property might be distributed.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you get to set up Anderson Family Lawyers, and what brought you, how did it come about, just setting up your own business?
Sure. So I always wanted to practice law as a child. So worked hard and did my degree. Whilst I was studying, I worked at a general practice. So I was exposed to a few areas of law, but I always wanted to do family. Worked there for a few years, which was great because I got a bit of experience in other areas of law, such as a bit of property, a bit of leases, and a few other areas. And then I ended up working exclusively in a boutique family law practice, worked there for a number of years before setting up on my own. The thing about family law is it's not boring. So you've got this one area of law, it's definitely not boring. And other areas of law always seem to have a relationship with family law. So you might have a tax aspect to a matter, which means I work with tax accountants because clearly I'm not an accountant. People need financial advice. People need assistance with working out what their borrowing capacity might be when looking at how they might distribute assets, which is where John comes into it. So that's how John and I have developed a relationship, because I think it's really important for any of my clients who are separating that before they even look towards putting a proposal out, that they work out, well, what can they actually do? There's no point putting a proposal out if you actually can't afford to do what it is that you do.
That's right.
Yeah.
So how long have you had the business for, and whereabouts is can we find you?
Sure. So I've been self-employed since about 2015. I see clients in Altona North, in Yarraville and Melbourne CBD, but I also speak to clients remotely, like what we're doing now. So I'll have phone conferences, Zoom meetings, Microsoft Teams meetings. So that's become a lot common now with the COVID-19 pandemic, but it's something I did before anyways, because people are busy. You know, we work, we've got children. It can be quite hard to step out to drive out to have an interview. And also you've got a bit more privacy sometimes as well. So sometimes people are nervous about walking into a solicitor's office.
Well, I've been there many times. I know
worried about who they might bump into.
Your office is not threatening in any way. It's very simple, very casual, and that's important.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I don't have a fin on my back, as you can see, so I'm not a lawyer shark. So people have this fear when they come to see lawyers that the big suits, the pompous language, but we're not all like that, as you probably can tell with the way I speak. My belief is that my role is to talk to people about what the law is so that they have options. So if you know what your options are and what your entitlements are, then you can best make the decision for your family. So the best way I can do that is to keep things simple.
Tell us a little bit more about during the last 4 or 5 months. Are you seeing a higher rate of relationship breakdowns during COVID, and related to that, are there seasonal troughs and peaks on relationship separations throughout the year, if excluding COVID-19 obviously, but what are some of the seasonal trends that you see?
Sure. So if COVID-19 hadn't existed, I would have said that the busiest time of the year usually for family lawyers is January. So just after Christmas break, we seem to get a lot of inquiries. Now, I don't know if it's because people make New Year's resolution to change arrangements, or if it's because people have been at home on the holidays and have made a final decision, but January seems to be quite busy. The other time of the year, which I find is quite busy in general, is July, August. So I've noticed that in the last few years. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not a psychologist, but I don't know if it's from a psychological perspective because there's no sun, so people become more, I don't know, depressed and upset. I honestly don't know, but the times I've noticed is probably January, July, August, and then before Christmas. So the reason why we get more inquiries before Christmas is often because people are trying to work out the care arrangements for children. So they're looking at school holidays. Okay, what's going to happen? So that's the usual explanation for the end of year. The start of the year can be property, children, anything, and the same with July, August. When it comes to COVID, what I've noticed during this COVID-19 pandemic is a lot of things have changed. So I guess the first thing that's changed is the way that the courts work. So the family court and the federal circuit court, which are the two courts that deal with family law matters, are doing everything remotely. So in there are some rare circumstances where during stage 3, people were going into the court, but it was usually done either via Microsoft Teams or via the phone. Okay. So that's the first big thing. The next thing I would say is people are making inquiries, but I'm finding that a lot more matters are ending up in court. Now, that might be because people have gone to seek intervention orders. I've found people seeking to extend existing intervention orders, and then which is quite sad.
Yeah.
And a few more people making applications to the courts to resolve matters. And what we're finding with the property matters is that superannuation seems to be constantly changing. So regularly I have clients checking their super balances and it will change from week to week. So one tip is log in and keep an eye on your super balances, because
why would it change? I mean, if it belongs to you, there's no reason why the amount the balance would change, would it?
Oh, it's just the market. It's just the market through COVID-19.
So you're talking about returns. I thought someone's accessing the funds. Okay. Yeah.
No. So people's balances are changing, which impacts family law. So I had one matter within, and I'm just trying to think of the timeline between he checked, but I reckon between a couple of months it changed by about, I think it was about 14, 15 grand up and down, depending on what the investments in the fund were. So this had nothing to do with the parties at all, but just because of the pandemic and how it's impacted the market.
And that would affect it. If they're splitting everything 50-50, that 14 grand might change everything.
It does, and it impacts the way we draft.
So often when we draft superannuation splitting orders, we'll set out
the base amount as to what
to be split. So sometimes what we're finding is people might do a percentage split instead of set out a base amount as to what the superannuation split will be. The other thing is obviously the property market's been impacted. So through stage 4, obviously.
Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot.
Houses has been, So, and that impacts obviously family law matters too, because I have clients who need resolution and they're either in the process of resolving things or maybe they have, but the house isn't selling. Which is a problem because both people need the funds, and where people have lost jobs too, they need the funds even more so.
Yeah, seeing that a lot.
That's another big impact.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think that's happened is that people, I think COVID-19 has exacerbated existing situations and the way people feel. So maybe things might have come to a head eventually, but I think it's just maybe pushed people to move a particular way quicker.
So you should be seeing, are you anticipating an increase in the number of, how do I say it nicely, family separation inquiries? Not in a good way, but I can't phrase it properly. Yeah, there's never a good way to say this. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. Look, it can even happen with client matters that I've already got that are existing. So people might say, okay, I just want to issue proceedings, which they may not have done before. So we're trying to slow things down, and but it's tough because everyone's in the same situation and people have lost their jobs. People are stressed out. People are stuck at home as well, which isn't great for, your mental health, being stuck at home. So, and especially if you've lost your job and maybe there's 2 people at home or 2 people working from home and they've separated under the one roof and they want to move forward, it makes things tough and people want to move quicker. And that's why I say it's maybe pushed things to move quicker than they would have otherwise. So if we weren't in this situation, people wouldn't be all stuck at home.
Yeah.
In the one space. So I think that's that's another way that, or reason why things are maybe moving along.
Let's hope this doesn't go on for too
quicker
long.
than they may have.
Yeah. Let's move on to.
No, that's
Let's move on to a important thing which we spoke about last week over the phone, and I'm also mindful of time. And you mentioned something to me about conflict of interest, and this whole insider thing. You want to tell us a little bit more about what this whole thing is?
So when solicitors advise clients, we need to make sure that we can provide
Independent advice, okay? Independent confidential advice. So what that means is, if there is a conflict, we may not be able to give somebody independent advice. And there's various reasons for which there could be a conflict. The most obvious one is that we may have given advice already to the other party. So if I've already given advice, for example, to a husband, I would have a conflict in giving advice to the wife, because I have already spoken to the husband who has divulged confidential information to me about maybe his financial circumstances, what's going on in his life. So that's an obvious one. But what people don't realize is sometimes there might be a conflict for other reasons. So, for example, if I knew someone in a way in which I had confidential information about them, I knew them intimately, I knew their financials quite intimately, it may be inappropriate for me to then go on and give advice to the other party, because the question is it independent advice? And that's what it comes down to. So whenever clients ring up and want to make an appointment, the first thing we do is the conflict check, and we try to make it clear so that they understand. It doesn't necessarily mean that we've spoken to your partner or your wife or your husband. It just means that there is a reason for which it would be inappropriate, because we cannot provide that independent advice because we've somehow got information about that person. And like I said, it might be that we know them in some sort of personal capacity. So we've already got information about them.
Do you see that a lot? I mean, I'm not prying, but do you see that a lot, obviously, in your day-to-day activities?
Look, it happens. It's happened quite a few times this year, because you'll get one person coming and then someone else might be referred by somebody else, but unfortunately we can't act for both parties. Okay,
that's interesting. Well, I'm mindful of time. Let's wrap it up in the next 2 or 3 minutes. And tell us what's keeping you... what's keeping Anderson family lawyers busy in the next few weeks, hopefully when stage 3 kicks in, and anything interesting about your business that people can I'll obviously put in information about your business on my post, about any other interesting bits of information about you and the business.
So Catherine Farrers and I work together. Catherine's a family law solicitor as well, and she's been working as a solicitor for a number of years, and prior to that she was a PA for solicitors, so she's been in the industry for a while. We're both working remotely, catching up regularly, both doing video calls, phone calls, all that sort of thing. But we're in constant contact, so we're still working together closely. And I'd say one thing about our team is that Catherine and I do both work closely together. So if a client has a question and one of us can't get is busy, then quite often another person will be able to pick up the phone and answer the question or shoot an email. So I think that's a good thing, and that's what's keeping us busy, because we both have our quite a few files that we're both working on, but we work collaboratively as well.
Wonderful.
And I think that's what's keeping us going. I think if you were working alone as a family lawyer, it would be tough in this situation.
I think figuratively and literally alone, because we can't meet anyone at the moment.
No, and you can't bounce ideas off anyone. Well, you
can, because I've got a relationship with barristers and other experts, but it's nice to have someone else in the office
to bounce ideas off. Yeah.
Well, that's it. We'll wrap it up from here. Just want to say quickly out to anyone who's still watching this when I put it up. So Lucy would be putting interesting short videos, maybe 30 to 1 minute nuggets of information about what she's doing or what she does on an ongoing basis. No promises, but we'll try and get as much content as possible. So I think it's important to get to try and demystify what family law is. Everyone thinks it's a very scary thing, but obviously someone like Lucy, they have a very friendly face, no fin at the back as well, like you said. No. And yeah, just look forward to any comments that you viewers may have. Again, Lucy's details will be at the bottom. Do reach out to her or just DM